This is the Utah High School Hoops Podcast, your source for sometimes informative, but always entertaining coverage of the Utah High School Hoop scene. With your host, Adam Peak. Hey, what's going on, everybody? Happy Sunday. It's the Sunday before Christmas, which is always a great time. I think a lot of teams are going to be on break. It's an amazing time to recharge. I hope that you are loving time with your family. I redid my office a little bit, so if you're watching this, you can see a little bit of a different angle, a little bit of a different background. Don't worry, everybody. This is still a safe for the whole family background. This is not beer. It's an American sparkling water called Not Beer, sitting up here in the background. So today on the Utah High School Hoops Podcast, I'm going to go through some top teams and individual performances from the past week or so, a couple that I missed, and then I'm going to go through, I just released some power rankings today, and I want to kind of talk through them a little bit. I like the podcast form versus the Instagram back and forth. And the reason is because on Instagram and just any sort of text-based communication in general, you only utilize 7% of available human communication. And so when I can talk, and if you can see me, and when you can talk to somebody in person, that's always the best way to communicate. And so kids, if you're listening, teenagers especially, learn how to communicate and talk with other people, not digitally, in person, face-to-face. Learn the art of communication. Trust me, it is going to serve you well as you continue to grow up and get older. So the first thing I want to do is I want to go through and start with some big performances from this past week. And while I was going to start up at Grand Canyon, I would like to actually go to Logan High School and highlight Reed Olson. So Reed is currently, he is a senior, 6'7" senior out of Logan, and he is leading the state currently in rebounds per game. But check this, against Mountain Crest, he had a 15-point, 23 rebound double-double. And against Cedar City on the 12th, he had a 24-point, 15 rebound game. Now, I actually would have loved to see this matchup against South Summit, because it looks like our leader right now in terms of points per game, Logan Wolstenholm from South Summit, when they went face to face, Logan got the better of that particular matchup. Logan had 26 and 13, but he is another just double machine. It doesn't look like everything has been updated for Logan, but his last 4 games, they played a team from Alaska. He had 22 and 12. Capistrano Valley, California, he had 34 and 13. Western Nevada, 25 points. And Sabino, Arizona, 24 points. I think South Summit was out at the Tark Classic. So Logan and and Reed, awesome job. Keep battling. Keep doing all of the dirty work. But let's talk a little bit here about Jude Hay Hay. Jude, you got to tell me how to say your last name. I'm just going to keep butchering it until you let me know. But Jude against Mountain Crest hit 9 threes and put down 51 points. Against Bear River the game before, he had 24 points and on 5 3-pointers. So this guy put in 75 points and hit 14 threes in just 2 games. For a lot of players, that is their entire season worth of offensive output. And Jude said, all right, I'm just going to come in here to Utah and I'm going to start tearing it up. He's 6'7". He's a Holy Cross commit, and Green Canyon, spoiler alert, made my top 10 teams, regardless of division or standing as an independent team in UHSAA. I had Green Canyon at number 10, and I'll explain a little bit of the reason why. So let's see. Statewide scores, like I mentioned, Logan is leading. Logan Wolstenholm is at 25.1. Jude is right behind him at 24.5. And Noah Benninger. Noah, I picked you I predicted that you would lead the state in scoring. And the Boise State commit out at Corner Canyon is at 23.6. Gavin Lowe at Olympus, 22.1. John Rosevere at Cottonwood, who had a 40-point outbreak earlier, is at 21.8. And Jackson McQuiston at 20.7. Let's give a quick shout out here to some of our assist leaders. Kobe Ross down at ALA, who is my number one team in 2A, is averaging 8.3 assists per game. But then Luke Park out at Cottonwood, the point guard, is having an exceptional start to the year, 7.9 assists per game. How many of those are to the aforementioned John Rosevere, though? I'd be interested to hear that. And then on the small school side, at Milford, Sadler Barnes, class of 2025, coming in third at 7.3 assists per game. Let's see here. Block shots, Gavin Rhodes at 4.5. Soren Reese is having a great start to the year out at Highland. He's second in the state right now in block shots per game at 3.5. 6'9" junior. He is a stretch 4. Let's see, the last game against Fremont, he had 13 points, 13 rebounds, 2 assists, 2 steals, and 7 blocked shots. Against Davis, he had 4 block shots, and against Syracuse, he had 5 block shots. That is 16 block shots in the last 3 games for Soren. Amazing work. His timing is getting better on his block shots, and he's not just getting them on the help side too. He's walling up in man-to-man defense. He's doing a great job there. So congratulations to Soren on that. So some teams, there's a lot of out-of-state tournaments. I was really trying hard to keep track of everything that was happening. The problem is, if I can be totally honest here, is this a safe space to be honest? The hard part was a lot of these tournaments don't make it easy to get access to their information, and nobody sends the stuff to Deseret News or puts it on Max Preps. And so I look on Des News, I look on Max Preps, I look on Baller TV, I try to watch when I can. But if the tournament doesn't make it easy, and I'm a nobody, you guys, like I'm just a guy with a microphone here. But imagine the college coaches, the recruiters, like they're trying to get information. They want to know. And so I think it's a good idea to go to tournaments if you can, where they are making information easy to find. And the sad thing is, a lot of these tournaments, I don't even know what they are. Like the schools don't really promote them. They just say like, we're going to this place. Like I know Davis, for example, I know Davis went to Seattle. And I really only know that because I'm friends with some of the parents on the team and they were posting things on Instagram, but I don't know what the tournament was called. I don't know who played well. I don't even know who won. Whereas like the Tarkanian Classic, as an example to that, is very upfront with all their stuff. They're constantly promoting. They put out stats on Twitter. It was easy to find. I could watch the games on Baller TV. I could subscribe as a member of the media and get updates. It was so easy. And so if you're like, man, why was he covering the Tark Classic so much? It's just because it was easy to do. I have 5 children and a full-time job. Like it's hard. If it's hard for me to get information or cover something, it's just not going to happen. So if you want me to talk about what's going on, I would love to, but please, please, please have your coaches or somebody send me information, and don't send me stuff that is subjective, right? Like I don't really like, for example, like I left American Fork off my top 5 on the last time. And I got a lot of feedback about like, man, they're way underrated. They're playing really well. That's all subjective information, right? I don't handle that super well. I try to be as objective as I can and just look at like records and numbers and who's played well against opposing teams when I'm putting together these power rankings. So that's the reason for some of the coverage from the Tarkanian Classic. Or if you play at Judge Memorial Catholic School, I'm probably at the games. Because I'm a dad first podcast host, like 52nd in the things that I really prioritize in my life. So I'm probably at the Judge games. But let's talk about the Tark Classic here, because it's a very well run event. I was sad that I wasn't able to go, but Judge had finals during the Tark Classic, so Judge couldn't go. And then therefore I wasn't just going to go down to Vegas just because. They have the prep schools, and then they also have various brackets based on level of competition. And so what I think is really cool about this is that you can still win. You can win all tournament, you can win MVP, and you're going to be playing against teams that are, kind of at your level, right? So, um, if I watched Leighton Christian play, I watched Timpview play. They were in the platinum division. They're going up against Dean Ruckert. Dean Ruckert put 31 points on Tyron Stokes. Tyron Stokes is arguably by most rankings is the number one player in the 2026 class. And I think Dean put himself into the conversation of a top 20 or 25 player in the class based off of what he did at the Tarkanian Classic alone, right? So they're playing teams like Bishop Gorman. They played Notre Dame. They played, I'm trying to remember the other teams they played off the top of my head, but LCA and Timpview were in that same bracket. And so I could tune in, I could watch the games. And they played well. I put this out on Instagram as also Tyron Stokes is a committed player to UNLV, right? He's committed. He's going there, and the tournament is in Las Vegas. So what does Tyron do? He doesn't take it easy. He doesn't, he wants the hardest assignment. He showed up at that tournament like he was on a mission, and that kid played exceptional. Him and Allen both, along with Dean and Will Openshaw, all made the all tournament team in the platinum division. So shout out to those guys. But what else is cool about it is like you had these teams that are playing against, very, very high level, prep school level kind of competition. But then you had a school like, Alta, who went out and Dash Riser was the MVP. They didn't lose a game. They went 4-0. Ben's Zach Papke is an all tournament team. And I got to watch that game. Right. And then you had Bingham and Luke West puts 29. And I think I said, by the way, on Instagram that Lucas Neidig had 15 points on 5 shots or 6 shots. I was looking at the free throws and not the field goals. It was on 9 shots, was still incredibly impressive. So a very efficient game for Lucas. And then Luke West. And I think, was it Parker? I think Parker Snedeker ended up as an all tournament and Luke was the MVP. But Luke was huge. They both won their tournaments. Utah Prep national team went out to Hawaii. And what a cool, I got to imagine, an emotional homecoming for not just JJ Mandequit, but also Anthony Falesi, who is a kid who I think, similar to Dean on the 2026 rankings, is putting himself further and further up the rankings. These two guys are getting better and better and better every time I watch them play. But how cool for Anthony to go out and play in front of a bunch of friends and family, along with JJ Mandequit in the gym that he played at before he came to RSL, which is now Utah Prep. And they won. They ended up beating Brewster Academy by 2 points in the, I think it's pronounced the Iolani Classic. But just an awesome, what a cool thing, right? Payson goes out, lost an absolute heartbreaker. It was hard to tell the jersey number, so I apologize to the Payson Lions, but your jerseys are green, like a dark forest green with like that blue on Baller TV. I couldn't tell the jersey numbers of the kids who are playing well. And since I don't just know Payson Lions basketball, I want to give you guys your props, but I was like, I can't tell who that was. But listen, that team battle, they took their first loss of the year. We'll talk about them here in a little bit, but they made it all the way to the championship. So shout out to all these teams who go out and help Utah basketball and put Utah basketball on the map. All right, here's what we're going to do. We're going to take a quick break. We're going to hear from our newest sponsor, Relight, and then afterwards we are going to get to the rankings, and I'll explain some of my hot takes. We'll be right back on the Utah High School Hoops podcast. Okay, so recovery in athletics is incredibly important. Having the ability to have energy from game to game and from practice to practice is critical. And that's where I think that Relight by Redmond is an absolute game changer. So Redmond is a salt company, and they've been able to use their history to create a product that is absolutely changing things for athletes. So you can go to redmond.life, redmond.life. You can take a quiz, and they will let you know what are the right products for you. They are committed to providing products that are simple, clean, and real, and they will never waver from that commitment. They have pure ingredients. There is no sugar in it. I can tell you, I got some of this. It tastes really good. I gave some to my son. He had some right before a game. Before he had made me cramping and had been a little bit difficult. I asked him afterwards, I said, how are you feeling? He said, I feel great. Everybody go to redmond.life, take the quiz, and check them out. Or you can also find them on Amazon. Links will be down below in the show notes. All right, let's get to, I should have like music or something. Do I have any sort of like fun things here? What does this button do? Let's see what this does. Oh, that's so annoying. Let's never do that again. How's that sound? Let's get to the Utah High School hoops. I gotta have some sort of intro or some sort of thing. What's this one do? Yeah, I can't help it. Hey, by the way, I was checking something. I didn't realize this as well, but MVP at the Tark Classic, Dash Riser, congratulations. His last bucket at the tournament put him at 500 career points. So Dash Riser, 5'9" point guard, class of 2026 out of Alta. Okay, so we are going to go through some of these rankings, and I'm going to explain a little bit of my rationalization behind some of them. I'm not going to linger too long, but I think it's actually important to know, and I like to kind of flesh it out here. So first of all, we're going to go to our top 10 overall rankings. Actually, we can start here at I'm going to hide this thing. There we go. We're going to start here at number 10 with Green Canyon. And I went back and forth with this. And the reason why I went back and forth is because the hard thing when I was trying to put this together is thinking like, okay, if, for example, Layton played Green Canyon, who do I think would win? Like if you said like, who do you think is going to win that game? I'd be like, I think Layton will win that game. I think they will. But also, I felt like there are two undefeated teams right now in Utah. There's Green Canyon and there's Penguich. And Penguich is a 1A team. They're playing great. I haven't seen them play, but I know they're defending state champions, right? But they weren't going to make it into my top 10 overall rankings. That would have been a tough one. But Green Canyon is a 4A school, and they have a lights out Division I player who just hung 51 points on Mountain Crest, as I talked about in Jude. So I felt like between Layton and Green Canyon, and I did consider Morgan, who's, spoiler alert, is at the top of my 3A rankings, because they took Green Canyon all the way down to the wire. They lost by 1 point. I was like, maybe Morgan, but I can't put Morgan in over Green Canyon. So that was sort of how some of my thought process went. And I thought, you know what? They're undefeated. They've not lost. They've beaten every single team they've been asked to play. And they've beaten some good teams, right? Like Mackay, Allen, and Provo are no pushovers. And they beat them by a solid 20 plus points. So they have some good wins. I moved them into the top 10. We'll see if they can hang out there. I put Alta and Bingham here in the top 10, not only because they're playing really great basketball. I think they're two of the absolute surprise teams in all of Utah high school basketball right now. They are very, very much guard-heavy teams with elite, and I mean elite shot making from the guard position. And I think when you can do that, and you can defend, and you can be well coached, which both Alta and Bingham are, and then you get key, contributing roles, like I talked about Lucas Neidig, or I'm trying to remember his name at Alta. That oh man, I was watching the game. He hit a big three. I'm gonna find him here in a second, but just give me 1 second here while I meander my way through this year. Let's go to standings. I almost had it. It just left me. Hang on. This is like the worst thing for any kind of like Colin Hansen. So guys like Colin Hansen, guys like Lucas Neidig, who can step in. I think that these are both two teams. Now, are they going to continue this hot streak? I don't know, but listen, they just won a couple of championships at a very difficult tournament. And so you got to give them their props, right? That's just, they won the championship. Anthem Prep is a team that I've only watched play a little bit. I've known Rahidi from when he was at Juan Diego, and then when he played with Team Utah this past year. And I think this is a team that, like when I put this out there, there was a lot of people like, who is Anthem Prep? They're here in South Jordan, which is right near where I live. They've got a ton of kids that come over here from all over the world, really. There's a connection with the Mountain Stars UAA team. They have some sponsors. They're playing on the EIBC league, which is part of the grind session. I don't know if they're in the grind session, but they're playing nationally ranked teams, and they're playing really well. So I have Anthem Prep there at 7, and then Harriman at 6. Let's keep going here. This is probably, and I could talk about this now, or I could talk about this in 5A, but I moved. This is where it got 3, 4, and 5 got a little bit funky, and even 1 and 2 got a little bit weird. But I moved Timpview ahead of Orem in my 5A, and then also subsequently on my top 10. And it was from watching the play of Timpview, candidly, at both when they beat up on Harvard Westlake, who, by the way, have Nick Kamina, who's going to Duke. Like, they are. Dean is dropping 31 on Tyron Stokes. Like, their 2-3 zone is a nightmare for teams to navigate. Like, if you can't shoot the ball from college to NBA level range, you are going to have a very, very difficult time scoring on Timpview. They are long, they're athletic. They've got everything that you would need. And I just think, like, they gave Notre Dame all that they could handle at and Leighton Christian did the same thing, right? But like, they gave a top, I don't know if they're a top 10 program nationwide, but Notre Dame is phenomenal. They're loaded with Division I talent, and Timpview gave them all they could handle. To be fair, Orem has also done similar things, right? Like, they beat Sierra Canyon. Orem had their first loss. Timpview had the early loss to Wheeler. I think Orem lost to Duncanville, which is a tremendous school as well. Watch them play against Utah Prep. They hung with Utah Prep's national team. And then you have this whole conundrum where Orem beat LCA, right? LCA beat Timpview. And so 3, 4, and 5 here were a bit more fluid to me, but I really felt like Timpview earned the spot here this week, right? These are power rankings for this week. Again, not how I think the year is going to end up or who I think is going to win in a matchup. So number 2, I have Wasatch Academy. I considered putting them at number 1. Utah Prep's national team has had a few losses recently. Wasatch Academy, I think, is only at 1 loss, including a grinded out match against, or a win rather, against Leighton Christian Academy. That wasn't a loss, but it was the losses that Utah Prep's national team took were close. They were, there's just a lot going on there. And so maybe you could argue, like, the rationale for having Green Canyon at 10 is probably the same rationale I should have at Wasatch Academy at 1 or Utah Prep. But at the end of the day, neither one of those two teams probably care too much about the power rankings from a Utah high school basketball podcast. All right, let's keep going here. 6A, I've got Harriman at 1. Who still is just, they're going to be tough to unseat. They're at the top. I moved Bingham up to 2, dropped Leighton down to 3, not for anything that Leighton did poorly, just because I thought Bingham was playing. They had such an exceptional run there. I'm wondering if they play. Let's see here. Do they have to play each other, right? Am I crazy that they don't? Of course they play each other. Let's see. When do Bingham? Let's go through Bingham's schedule here, see who they have coming up. Course, it's going to take forever to load, because it always happens whenever I'm doing this live and I'm trying to get access to information. It's the internet's like, oh yeah, silly boy. Well, it's not going to pull up, but it'll be what, Bingham versus Harriman. If Bingham plays Leighton, that's going to be great. Corner Canyon went out again. Like, they played in a national tournament. I think they played Koa Pete's team. I believe they did. I didn't have any of the data, so I don't really know. And then I have Davis at number 5, and of course, I think before I might have had Davis above Bingham, and then it was like, listen, we beat Davis. It's like, okay, oh wait, here, finally it pulled up. Yes, I know it's hard to do because every team has lost, with the exception of Penguich Bobcats and the Green Canyon Panthers. I don't. Okay, let's see. Who do we got coming up here? We've got Bingham at Brighton, American Fork at Bingham. So on January 7th, all of you who are saying that I was underrating American Fork, well, now you got your shot, right? There is Bingham at Harriman on the 14th, and Bingham at Corner Canyon on the 24th. Another game against Harriman. Looks like we're just in a region play there. So Bingham will not play Layton, but I think that would be a fantastic game to watch. Going down here to 5A. Like I said, I had the shakeup at the top. I put Tim Few up over Orem. Got Alta at 3. I think I had Highland at 3. Again, the same reason I moved up Bingham. It's the same reason I put Alta up above Highland is like they just won a championship, and this is about winning. This is what this is going to be about. And so I put them up there. I expect there's going to continue to be shakeup in 5A, but 5A is more, 6A and 5A are more open than people realize. I think any team in the top probably 5 to 7 of both of these is going to have a shot. They're just going to have a shot come a single elimination tournament with a bunch of 16 to 19-year-old kids. Let's keep going here through 4A. I've talked about Green Canyon. Talked about Payson a little bit in the run that they had. So they moved up to number 2. Timpanogos dropped down to number 3. I think they had a recent loss. I can't remember who they lost to. Hillcrest at 4, and then Ridgeline stayed put at number 5 in 4A. 3A, we've got Morgan, who only has the 1 loss by 1 point to Green Canyon. They stay up at 1. Juab beat Canyon View. Both of them have exceptional records. I don't really know. I didn't go through and look at like, okay, well, who have they played? Just whoever they played, they've won, and both of them have only lost 1 game. Richfield and Judge Memorial, American Heritage has a few losses recently, and so they dropped out of the top 5. Richfield and Judge Memorial stay up there. Judge Memorial moved to 6 and 6. So the reason I have them at 5 is because they're a 500 team, and they're probably, from a win percentage perspective, are probably the lowest win percentage team on any top 5. However, I just happen to know that they've played a very rough schedule, like they do every year. Coach Sanyon does this, and they were 5 and 12 at one point last year. So 6 and 6 is pretty fantastic. Let's keep going here. 2A, ALA just has the 1 loss. Talked about Kobe Ross and their team. Coach Ross has them playing really, really well. Kanab at 2, and this is where I start to just my data is harder and harder to get. So I just kind of look through records, figure out it was a good record, who's beat teams. I think South Sevier, am I saying that right? South Sevier. I did not have them in my top 5. I moved them up to number 4. And then Draper APA at 5. Here in 1A, Penguich, as I mentioned, is the only other undefeated team. They're at 1. Isn't it weird that I know the Penguich Bobcats mascot, but off the top of my head, I can't. I think it's the Green Canyon Wolves, but I can't remember. We've got the Tintic Miners moving up to number 2, Milford at 3. Rich, who I did have at number 2. I had Rich at number 2, and then had a couple of losses. I dropped them down to number 4, and Tabiona is going to round out the top 5 in 1A. You can see all of these rankings over on my Instagram page at eAdamPeak, which is just my name. There's nothing special about it. I am so looking forward to the day when I can just delete my Instagram forever because me and social media don't always get along that well, but that's okay. So going into the break, I hope everybody gets a lot of rest. This is an awesome opportunity if you are a serious basketball player to get in the gym. You can always lift, you can always shoot, you can always run. So you can come back in better shape, you can come back stronger, you can eat well, you can sleep, you can stay off social media. You have all of these opportunities. You can enjoy some time with family, but you can also get better. All right, you can also get better. You can go out to the training zone in Harriman. Ask your parents for a free 10-day trial or 7-day trial there at the training zone, and to go in and get some shots with a shooting gun. Like, you can always get better at the things that you can control. Shooting, you can always become a better shooter. You can always become stronger. You can always become faster, and you can always be in better shape. Always. You can always do those things. Those are in your control. Are you going to do anything about it? When you can talk about it, right? But if you are really about it, that's going to come out on the court. and that's where we're going to see it. So I hope everyone has a great Christmas holiday. For those of you who don't celebrate Christmas, have a happy, whatever it is, the holiday that you are celebrating. I hope it is fantastic and wonderful, and that you enjoy your break. And we'll be back next week. Maybe I'll go live on Instagram with Utah Ballers here at some point, maybe tonight, maybe tomorrow. I don't exactly know, because we can argue about some stuff, and that could be kind of fun. But I hope everyone enjoyed this episode of the Utah High School Hoops podcast. Please go to utahbasketball.net and be sure to share and like and subscribe. And if you would like to, you can clip this and share whatever you want about me talking about whoever it is. You don't even have to give me credit for it. You can just share it and put it out there if you'd like to. I'm good with it. Appreciate y'all. Have an awesome, wonderful, and blessed Christmas and holiday season. Thanks.